Hi, everyone. If you're here, thank you so much for registering and joining. If you can hear me, could you please type in the chat or show an emoji on your screen that you can hear me loud and clear? If you can hear me, type yes. If you cannot, type no. All right. Thank you. We're going to start in a minute. We're just going to wait for some time. Thank you so much for joining on time.
Sure.
Hi, Falana, can you hear me? You're muted at the moment. Let me unmute you.
Hey, I think I've been unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and good evening from wherever you might be watching and listening to all over the world. I am Olayiwola Folan Festus, the Student Union President of Obafemi Awolowo University, Great Ife, Oba Awon University, the only African university and the Africa's most beautiful campus. Today, as part of our aim and our goal to ensure that we have advancement in acquiring knowledge and also to be able to get better understanding of worldview and have a broader knowledge all over the world. So we, in conjunction with Graduate School Hub, the Student Union, in conjunction with Graduate School Hub, to be able to let people be aware of and enlighten people of scholarship opportunities that is in abroad, both in the US, UK, and part of Europe. And host for today. We'll finish from OAU. She's also a product of OAU. She's the best graduating student of our set in the Department of Chemistry, Faculty of Science, 2016-2017 set, if I'm right. And she bagged 3 out of 4 awards that was given to her department. So she has been doing wonderfully well. So she left for US after her graduation, and she started doing a master's. She finished her master's and also currently running a PhD in US. Then I think we've been in touch for about 4 to 3 months ago, and how because she's passionate about letting people, empowering people, about getting people to meet up to standard. And so she came back to me, and so like she would like to help people, inform people about how there are scholarship opportunities in US, in UK, and part of Europe. And she has been doing wonderfully well for years, which she has helped a lot, and there are records to show for it. And we are really happy to receive you. Although this is your alma mater, wherever you might be, and we are really happy to receive you, and also for the enlightenment that I'm so sure she came fully prepared and loaded for us to be able to enjoy from his wealth of knowledge and experience. So join me as I welcome Miss Rahimat Rafiu to present herself. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Fola. Hi, everyone. Like Fola has said, my name is Rahim Rafiu. I graduated from chemistry department, 2016-2017 set. And I moved to the US afterwards for my direct PhD. I actually didn't do a master's, so it was a direct BSc to PhD admission. So, and since then, I've helped hundreds of people to land fully funded scholarships. I would post like the links to the website and where you can like get information about scholarship information, and also follow me on social media. So I reached out to Fola some months ago because I wanted people, especially OU students, to have access to the knowledge I did not have. Because usually when you start university, nobody talks to you about, okay, what are you going to do after you finish your bachelor's degree? And we know in OAU, people say they want to study medicine, and OAU gives them zoology or botany or an agri course that they do not really like. And everybody's like, what am I going to do with this course? And honestly, what I've learned is no matter what you study, even if you finish from soil science, like whatever course you study in OAU, you can get a fully funded scholarship and travel to America, to Canada, to Europe, so many countries all over the world. But because people do not have this knowledge, people just feel, if I'm not studying dentistry or medicine or medical rehabilitation, that means that my degree is a waste. And also there's also the fear, because there is no jobs in Nigeria. When I wanted to study chemistry, then people were like, why would you study chemistry? You're going to end up as a teacher and get paid 20,000 naira per month. But I did not listen to that. I listened to my passion for chemistry. I knew this was what I wanted, and that was what I followed. So before we get into like the complexities of the scholarship stuff, I just wanted to let you know that this applies to you no matter the course you're studying. And I don't want you to feel that, oh, because you maybe did not get your dream course, or you're not very passionate about the course you're studying right now, that this is not for you. So I'm going to start sharing my screen in a moment. All right. Let's see. If you can see my screen, type yes in the chat box before I continue. All right, great. So why are we here today? I want to teach you how to secure fully funded MS and PhD scholarships outside Nigeria. The name of my company is the Graduate School Hub. I've been running the company for 3 years, and we've helped hundreds of people to land fully funded scholarships outside Nigeria. And like I said before, the reason why I am doing this is because I want you to have the knowledge, not until you graduate. Because for me, I graduated OAU in December 2018. That was when I did my convocation, and I was in America January 2019. So it was well planned. It was what I intended. I didn't want to wait for anything because I knew my career and my future was not in Nigeria. So I left as early as I could. And I don't want to, because what happens sometimes is people graduate and then they work a very low paying job for years. They're frustrated. And then someone then tells them like, oh my God, you graduated with a first class or a 2-1, or even if it's a 2-2, like, okay, you can actually study outside Nigeria. And then they start then. Unfortunately, what I've noticed is sometimes it works for people, sometimes it does not. Because the more you stay in Nigeria, the more you have things that would hold you down, that would prevent you from studying abroad. There are people who would be like, oh my God, I've built a house. How can I leave? Oh my God, I have 4 children now. How can I leave? There's nothing that should stop you from pursuing your education, regardless of your situation. But the truth is, if you have the knowledge you need now, as soon as you're leaving Ogbafemi, you're leaving Great Ife, you know that it's Great Ife to America, Great Ife to Canada, Great Ife to the UK. It's so much easier that way because your body, mind, and soul would have been preparing for this. And aside that, if you knew from day one, as you stepped into OAU, that your degree is not a waste, that you would be able to travel outside the country and get fully funded scholarships, you pay more attention to your academics. You pay more attention to your CGPA. When other people are playing emotion grant, you know that, this CGPA, like there is a need for it. So you are very intentional, because unfortunately, what happens sometimes is people do not like the course they are given. They play in first year, play in second year, play in third year, then fourth year, they are running around trying to meet up with the bare minimum CGPA. I don't want that to be your case. So that's what I started with, like, no matter the course you're studying, you should know that you can gain fully funded scholarships outside Nigeria. So first, let me see the laser pointer here. Okay. So first, what is your motivation? What should be your motivation for committing to studying outside Nigeria? And the reason why I said committing is simple. I talk to so many people. I would say I probably talk to hundreds of people per week for inquiries. Oh my God, like this is what I have. I want to study abroad. But then what I have discovered is so many people say they want to study abroad, but unfortunately, they are not committed to the process. So it's like saying, oh, I want to enter OAU, I want to study this so course. And then when it comes to you preparing for JAM, you're not actually doing what you're supposed to do. So, and this is what I tell people, it is not an easy process. I'm not going to lie to you and say that, oh, it's just easy, is this, is that. What I would tell you is you need to be committed. I said it earlier that I moved to the US 1 month, less than a month after my convocation. It was very intentional. Immediately after I dropped pen for my last paper, I was preparing for the exams I needed. I was doing everything I needed to do to make sure that I move here immediately. So that's why committing is hysteric. Like, it's not just enough to say that, oh, I heard somebody say that I could study abroad. You need to commit to the process. You need to be very intentional and know and prepare and work towards your CGPA, do everything you need to do so that your dreams can actually be actualized. So there are so many motivations for people. Number one is, you know how Nigeria is at the moment with the whole election and stuff. We all know that before things can get better, we're talking about decades, because there's a lot of things that are damaged already. There are so many things that are lost this moment. So if you want a fulfilling career and you want to pursue a career in a country where your skills and expertise are respected, a country where it's not like you're finished and you're hustling about, I want to get a job. You see so many people study very technical courses, but they have to start selling stuff. It's not like entrepreneurship is a bad idea, but why spend 5 years and all of these years in school if you would not even be able to use what you've learned? So if you want a fulfilling career goal, that should be one of your motivations for studying outside Nigeria. Another thing is financial freedom. The moment you step into this country as a fully funded student, you're paid a salary. That's even before you start working. In Nigeria, nobody pays you a salary to go to school. There's nothing like that. In fact, you pay extra for a very, very terrible job market. But immediately you step into this country, as a PhD or a master's student, most times you get full funding. Another thing is alternatives. And what I mean by alternatives is, in my own case, I considered my options. What option did I have as a chemistry graduate in Nigeria? Very, very few options. And I know my father does not know the president or anything. It's not like I have somebody who has a company somewhere. So I knew that my alternatives to thriving in Nigeria was very little if I really want to continue in the field I have studied. So also ask yourself, if you think, oh, this traveling abroad thing is so stressful, or you just don't want to do it, Nigeria will be better tomorrow, that's fine. But just ask yourself, what are the alternatives and what are you losing by not taking charge and not using this opportunity to better yourself? Another thing is fast and easy relocation. If you're trying to move to another country as somebody who is working, like you want to get like a residency, it's very difficult and stressful. But traveling as a student is the easiest and fastest way you can get into the country. For instance, if somebody starts, for people who started the admission processing, who submitted applications December, even January this year, would be in the United States in August. That's like we're talking about 8 to 9 months process to move to another country, which is super fast. Because when you talk about permanent residency, you see people saying they've been trying to get into Canada for 3 to 5 years. I'm like, if you can go into a country as a student, you can walk your way up from there. And because most of these countries respect your expertise, I personally have not heard somebody who left Nigeria to come study in America and they cannot get a job. I have not heard of it. Maybe what they will start with, depending on their situation, might not be what they would want. But even people who graduate from my department, for instance, as a person who've just finished their PhD, you see people getting paid $130,000 per year salary as an international student. I don't know how long you want to stay in Nigeria to be able to have that amount of money. So there are just a lot of advantages to committing to studying outside Nigeria. Then the next thing is, where should you study? There are so many opportunities and so many options. For me, my company deals with any country you would like to go. But because I'm in the US and I know that the United States is the most generous country when it comes to giving scholarships, the most generous. Like, they would give scholarship for anything and everything. Very, very generous country. That's why when we work with people to get fully funded scholarships, we target the US, we target Canada. Other countries also have scholarships, but usually the scholarships are like government-based, where they say, okay, anybody from Africa can apply. If you're applying to something that they say anybody from Africa can apply, the chances of you getting it is slimmer. So that's why I always encourage people to follow the path of, okay, I want to study in the US, I want to study in Canada. And depending on who you listen to, for me, I believe you don't need to want to study in 15 countries before you make it. It's about being dedicated and being focused. For instance, now, if you're a student just out of secondary school and someone asks you, where do you want to go for university? And you're saying Nigeria, Canada, Kenya, and you're mentioning like so many African countries. It's like, if you choose Nigeria alone, there are like 170 universities you can go to in Nigeria. So what I'm trying to say here is, sometimes people make this mistake where they feel they have to apply to everywhere and everything before they can make it, whereas that's not true. Narrow down your options, narrow down your path. If you see opportunities in the countries, yes, you're very free to apply, but just have like the countries you are considering so that you can put maximum effort and get the maximum result out of whatever you have done. So the United States, like I've said, is the most generous when it comes to funding for PhD, for masters. Canada also. The UK, usually they give admissions. It's not easy to get into the US and Canada. It's competitive. The UK, on the other hand, even if your CGPA is not that good, they would admit you. But the truth is, how are you going to fund it? We're talking about £20,000, £30,000. The average Nigerian family does not have that saved somewhere. But for the US, if you study in the US, if you study in Canada for your master's or PhD, you even have a salary. Your tuition is paid, health insurance sometimes, your miscellaneous fees, like whatever fees the school requires you to pay, will be like very little out of whatever salary you earn. So that's why United States especially is like the hot cake when it comes to traveling abroad. Then, like I said before, I graduated from my bachelor's degree in 2018, and I moved to the US as a PhD student. I didn't go for a master's degree. And it's always shocking when I explain this to people because it's like, how can you not have a master's and then you're pursuing a PhD? So this is how it works. In America, an average PhD is like 4 to 5 years. And usually because at that time you're finished your bachelor's degree, the courses you would have needed to take in your master's, they allow you to take those courses in the first 2 years of your PhD. So even though we are saying, okay, this is a direct PhD, which means like I'm not being admitted for a master's and then I have to finish the master's and get a PhD, the courses I would have taken if I was a master's student are already embedded in my PhD. So even for many of my mentees and people I work with, I always advise them, go for the BSc to PhD route. And the reason is there is more funding. For many programs in the US, a master's degree is not required for a PhD. And because master's degree are also less funded than a PhD, it is always recommended that you pursue a direct PhD instead. I know you guys are going to have a lot of questions about this. Don't worry. I'll leave plenty room for questions after the conversation. Another thing is MSc takes about 2 years. Unfortunately, people make another mistake where they finish from OAU, they get their bachelor's degree, graduate with the first class or 2-1 or whatever it is, and then they come back to OAU again to do masters. You're paying. Sometimes this could, you see how the ASU strike thing has been. So many people, they've been doing masters for 4 years. In 4 years, we finish your PhD in America. Time is going, time is life. In 4 years, you would finish your PhD in America, but people finish BSc in Hawaii and then they go back. When I hear that, I'm like, who even advises? Who gives this kind of advices? Because if you leave immediately after your bachelor's degree, by the time your friends that went back to AU are done, you're graduating with a PhD. So, and if we do the rough calculation, okay, let's say an MSc takes approximately 2 years. In the normal situation, Sena climb, like people say, Nigeria is not a Sena climb. So many things are not going as it's supposed to be in that country. So you're talking strike, you're talking so many factors that you can't even control. So I've heard people say that MSc took about 4 years. And then if you finish MSc 4 years in Hawaii, and then that's when you hear that you can actually go to the US for your PhD. Nobody's going to reduce the number of years you're supposed to study because that's so wasted your time. That's not going to happen. So a degree that's supposed to, a direct PhD that is supposed to take you 4 to 5 years, if you, for instance, spend 4 years for a master's and then you're coming to the US 5 years for a PhD, the degree would actually take you 9 years. So we are talking about times 2 of the time. And everyone knows, everyone wants to finish school on time, start earning money. But then when you spend all your time in school, you give us the luxury, you let us waste your time and you do not have the information you need. This is what ends up happening. So the summary of this slide is for some programs, especially science programs, science, technology, business administration, sometimes you can apply to a direct PhD without having a master's degree. So the next slide, types of graduate school scholarships. So I've mentioned briefly that you would get paid, you do like your tuition is paid and all of this, but where exactly is this money coming from? So one is external funding. For external funding, we are talking about, like I said before, an organization can decide that they are awarding African students who studied chemistry, so funding to go study master's or PhD anywhere in the world. There are so many of these scholarships available where it's like a government scholarship or like an organizational scholarship where they say so many people can apply, and then if you're qualified, would sponsor your education wherever you want to go. And external funding is great. So many people have benefited from external funding. I've also applied some external funding in the past, but the thing is external funding is very competitive. Like I said before, if somebody says, opening a scholarship for OAU students, you're talking about tens of thousands of people. So many people will apply, which means that your chances of getting the funding is actually limited. But if you find external funding in course, sometimes it is very limited to your program. And the thing is, honestly, you lose and you miss 100% of the shots you do not take. So don't listen to the fact that I'm saying that, oh, everything is competitive. There's nothing that is not competitive in life. Life itself is a competition. So I'm not saying if you find the scholarships, do not apply to them. It's just that you know that because it's external, you have so many people applying, you need to strengthen your application. And most importantly, ensure that you meet the requirements they're asking for. So the major source of funding for many students studying in the US and Canada is what we call teaching assistantships. So let's paint a scenario. You graduated OAU, you studied zoology. Because you've taken 4 years studying zoology, definitely, if a freshman, somebody in part one is asking you zoology questions, you have an idea of what they're saying, even if you are not a born teacher, but if they're asking about, okay, like, how am I supposed to go through this class? What is this lab talking about? You have the idea. So the United States believes that because you have a bachelor's degree, you can teach people who are currently in college at the moment, who are currently in university and they're starting maybe their first year or second year. So you come here more like as a teacher, or we call it teaching assistantship. So you teach the college students in your department, and in turn, the department pays your tuition. Sometimes this tuition can be between $15,000 to $20,000. The department pays your tuition and the department gives you a salary. And the salary extends to whenever you graduate in most cases. So it's a win-win situation. You're gaining teaching experience, you're teaching college students, at the same time, you're earning a living. So when people say work and study, in the US, if you come here on teaching assistantship, you don't even need to start looking for somewhere outside to work, because usually the university itself has set a process where you kind of work for the school at the same time, also earn money. So another thing is the research assistantship. And in this case is like, for instance, let's say a company in Nigeria, let's say Shell or Chevron, maybe they have an energy problem and they are looking for scientists that can solve this problem. They can walk up to you and say that, oh, who is the best guy you have here in petroleum engineering? Talk to the guy that, oh, we have this problem in our company. Would you be able to solve it for us? If the guy says he'll be able to solve it, they ask him to submit a research proposal. Okay, this is the problem we have. How do you plan to help us solve the problem? Then they award him, saying, $1 million grant, so $500,000 grant. So what the professor then does is the professor then hires students that can help to work on the grant. So it's like you're working for the professor is working for the industry, and that's how your tuition gets paid, and that's how you get a stipend. Another thing is fellowships. Fellowships also are external. Anybody could set up a fellowship here to say that if you are of so age, from so background, who want to award you a fellowship, just apply. But the ones that provide you 100% tuition is usually the assistantships. So if you're applying for the US and Canada, you would hear this a lot, assistantships. They call it teaching assistantships or research assistantships. But there are also opportunities for external funding and fellowships. So what does the scholarship cover? Almost everything. Tuition is about $20,000 per semester. In some schools, tuition is $30,000 per semester, and the school pays everything, like everything. The stipend or salary too that you get, I talked that you work for the university as a teaching assistant, and then what happens is the university, in turn, they pay you a stipend or salary. So we're talking about $20,000 to $40,000, and this range is wide because it's like, let's say someone is living in Ibadan, another person is living in Lagos. The salary for the same job will be different because life style in Lagos is very high. So it's just like cut across that way. So people who live in very expensive cities get higher pay because most of that money eventually would go towards their housing and their food and all of that. So eventually everybody kind of is on the same level. And health insurance too, many schools pay health insurance. Sometimes schools don't pay, but usually the fee is very little compared to like the salary you're being paid. There are also other miscellaneous fees, like say computer fees and all of these little fees, but they are very small. And usually you can afford that, more than afford that from your stipend or your salary. So now I've given you the breakdown. Now comes the question everybody has, like, what do I need? What can I do? I want to leave Nigeria. I want to travel out. What exactly do I need? So first, there's an exam called Graduate Record Examination. It's called GRE. There's another one called Graduate Management Admission Test called GMAT. So for the GRE is usually for people in sciences and tech, social sciences too. GMAT, the word management is mostly for business administration people. So we're talking accounting, finance, and all of this. But the general one most people know is GRE, and it's because even courses in accounting and finance would accept GRE most times if you don't have the GMAT. So this exam is technical. You have the quantitative reasoning, the verbal reasoning, the writing part. It's not an easy exam. It's just like JAMB. If anybody's telling you, you won't tell them JAMB is an easy exam. If you don't study, you fail, like point blank. So it's an exam where there are a lot of resources online. There are lots of resources we provide in the mentorship program for you to learn the skills, how to pass this exam, most especially practice a lot of questions, because this exam requires a lot of practice. You need to practice and study so that you can have very good scores. Because one thing I also want to tell people is we're talking about studying outside the country, studying outside Nigeria, but you're not only Nigerians are applying, Ghanaians are applying, Kenyans are applying, Italians are applying, so many countries. Everybody wants to leave their country and come to America. So that means you want to make sure that your profile is as competitive as possible. There are some schools that would say we are waiving the GRE. So many of my students did not take this exam and they still got in. But I would say that if you have a first class, for instance, for some programs, if they say, oh, you do not need to write this exam, you can say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to apply just with my CGPA. But if your CGPA is not that great, maybe you had maybe 3.3 out of 5 and you want to strengthen it, if you write this exam, it shows the application committee or people making the admission decision that, okay, this person, even though the CGPA is not that strong, but if this person can pass this technical exam, so that means they are quite intelligent. Whatever could have happened in their BSc might necessarily not repeat itself in their master's or their PhD program. Another test is the test of English as a foreign language. We call it TOEFL or other English proficiency test. So this is just a test that tests reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And people will say, oh, it's just writing, or it's just reading. I've been reading since primary school. Well, it's actually quite more technical. So this is these exams are made to test your ability to understand and communicate the English language. And they always reinforce the speaking part. And this is not, you don't have to fake accents. This is not about speaking like an American or speaking like someone from Britain. No, it's about communicating clearly so that people can hear what you're saying. So because people make the mistake where they think it's about speaking like all these American movies you're watching, you're trying to just say that you're speaking like they're speaking. That's not the focus of the test. The main focus of the test is just to test your comprehension. So another thing is, the test of English as a foreign language, so not all schools require this test. Many schools will say that if you studied in Nigeria in any university, you don't have to take this test. But there are still some schools who would say if you are international, if you are not a US citizen, and you just have to take this test. So it depends. If you want to apply to any school and you don't want anything to hinder your application, you can decide to take the test. I took the test because I didn't want to worry about, I'm not qualified for this, I'm not qualified for that. So I took it. But if you don't want to take it, there are programs who will tell you if you studied in Nigeria, you don't need to take this test. The third is unofficial or official school transcript. For many programs in the US, they will tell you that if you have your unofficial school transcripts, that could be a collation of what you have on your e-portal, just screenshot all your grades, turn that to a PDF. You can use that for your application. Another thing you can do is you can request for an unofficial school transcript from your school. You can go, I don't know how the process is at the moment, but you can request unofficial school transcripts. The reason why I separated unofficial and official is usually when schools have admitted you, they request that you have your transcript sent directly from the university. So this is not the one you're uploading yourself. The university itself has to send your transcript down to the school. And I think there's like an application or like a website where you can request for your transcript in OAU now. So the essay everybody talks about when it comes to graduate school applications in the US is called Statement of Purpose. And it's basically just saying, why do you want to come here? What do you have? Why should we take you? Why are you the best candidate for this position? So this is an essay where you talk about your motivation for studying this program. You talk about your strength. If you've had volunteer, people are so worried about, oh my God, I don't have work experience. When I was applying, I had no work experience. I had never worked anywhere before, never done an internship anywhere, and I still got in. So they know that sometimes people are just fresh graduates, just out of school, so they don't require you to have so years of experience. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But if you've done any volunteer thing, if you've served like a leader in your church, something like that, if you've worked maybe in the lab, any internship that you've gone, you can also include this in like your statement of purpose and say, I have this experience. And I always tell people do not take their projects, their final year projects seriously when they're in university. take your final year project seriously. It is very, very important. Take it seriously, because your final year project is the opportunity to get exposed to what is called research. And when we're talking about master's or PhD, we're talking about advanced research. So this is the opportunity you have to know how to move from point A to point B, how to start with the research problem, and then you're writing a publication that states how you've solved the problem. So take your final year project very seriously, because you will need to talk about it in your essays. Admission committee also wants to see on your CV that you have the experience they want. Another thing is writing sample. Usually people in maybe like English, mass communication, these are the people that have this writing samples requirement. Sometimes, it's not all the time. It's just something that says, okay, you say you studied English in school. Can you just give us like a sample of something you've written before? Maybe 5 pages or 10 pages. It's just for them to test your ability to write and your ability to comprehend information and just write clearly. Then academic CV or resume. This is where we in the mentorship program provide a format, because in Nigeria, you see people presenting CV and they're saying marital status, single, date of birth, so all these things that are not necessary. An academic CV, like the name says, academic. This is not the time where you go about your life history, all the nursery schools you've attended, primary schools, only post-secondary school. So if you only have a bachelor's degree, that's the only education that should be on your CV. You don't need to say you attended primary school in something school. You don't need all of that. You just need your post-secondary school to be like on the education section. And then now, thank God for digital, thank God for technology. There's so many courses you can take online to boost your profile. For instance, if you're studying English, there are so many courses that will teach you communication skills. There are so many courses that will teach you how to write. There are so many seminars, free seminars you can attend online. But unfortunately, most times people are on Twitter causing violence when they're supposed to be preparing for their graduate school or doing what would benefit them in the future. I would recommend that use your data to good use. Even YouTube, for instance, there's so many things there's so many new skills you can learn from YouTube, so many new skills. There's so many, because sometimes people talk about they don't have money, they cannot take these courses. There's so many websites that would allow you to take courses and would even give you free certification that you can show that, okay, I took this course, I am certified in this. What this also does, number one, it shows to the admission committee that you're someone who is hardworking. It shows to them that maybe if you do not have enough research experience, you're somebody who can do what is required to bridge your knowledge gap. Everybody does not know everything from day one. We all have our day one. We all have our day zeros. We have our day one. We have a day where we say, I don't know anything about this thing. And in some time, we can say, okay, to an extent, I actually know what I'm talking about. So nobody's expecting perfection from day one, but show effort. And that's why one of the things I started talking to you about is commitment. You cannot do this thing if you're not committed. You cannot do it if you're just winging it and you're just doing it. And it shows in everything you do. If you're not committed to something, you're nonchalant about it. You don't care too much. Just like how so many of you feel about Nigeria. When you're talking Nigeria, you just like, see, like, I don't even have time. Like, it gets to a point where you become nonchalant because you're just tired, you're fed up. But unfortunately, applying for graduate school is not an easy task, and you cannot do it just winging it. Like I always say, you cannot freestyle your applications. You cannot it's just like saying, I don't want to study for JAM, I'll just go there, use ECHO for them, and just, you cannot be, even if you are shading up, you just score 120 over this course. So you need to be deliberate and know that, okay, this is a big step for me, big step for my family, big step for my unborn children, big step for my generation to come, because the probability that you come to America to study and then maybe 5 years or 10 years after, your generation will now start again from like, oh, we are going to live in Ocean State and then start the cycle again. It's very rare. So you are doing this for a lot of people, not only you actually. And the last is letters of recommendation. If you're in university right now, as I know you, be nice to your professors, be nice to your lecturers. Don't let them know you as the troublemaker. You're doing all this causing trouble in class. You don't have any good reputation, because you need letters of recommendation from these people. For me, when I was applying, there were so many professors that were ready to even give me recommendation letters. Most of them even sent to me and said, like, if what I have written for you is not okay, tell me what you need me to add. It was because I had a good relationship with them. This is why it is good to show up and be responsible in class. Can you be the class rep? If you can, help students. Let lecturers know you? Can you assist the class rep? If the lecturer is asking for something, can you take charge? Just make sure that you have at least 3 to 4 lecturers that know your name. Some of you are in the department, nobody knows you. You're just like a shadow. You enter class, you get out. You enter class, you get out. You do that for 4 years. At the end of the day, they are mentioning your name. Lecturers are like, did this person even study here? It's not like you should necessarily do things for show off, but be responsible and make sure that at least you have 3. Not all lecturers will like you. Not all lecturers will like you. Some people will hate you for no reason. And you know how lecturers can be in Hueyo. Sometimes they are a hard nut to crack. But there will be some lecturers that you can relate to, even if it is just greeting them once in a while, even if it is just knocking on their door and asking them questions. Or I wanted to ask a question about what you talked to us about today. They like it when they've shouted so much at class. Everything is hot in 1,000 seat tire. Everybody is just us. Everybody just wants to get out. And then they see 1 to 2 students following them afterwards saying, oh, sir, I would like to ask you questions about what you've taught. It shows that at least 1 or 2 people are interested in what they are teaching. So you would need letters of recommendation from your professors. And unfortunately, some people think, oh, yeah, I can just fake a letter of recommendation. You're not, the way it works in America, it's not like they will ask you to bring one printout from somewhere and upload. They would send a private email to each of these lecturers. So the lecturers then would upload your letter to the portal. So it's not like they will give you, and so, because if they say they will give you and upload anything, many of you will go and look for one daddy in your Adobe and say that, okay, just let me write this thing quick. It doesn't work like that. It's actually a very safe and secure email they send to these lecturers. Another thing I always say is, people think, oh, like, what if the person that wants to write me letters of recommendation, they're not all lecturers in OAU has a doctorate degree. Some of them are just Mr. this, Mr. that, but they've been teaching courses and all of this. It doesn't matter as long as they have taught you before. Sometimes it's not necessary that all of them are in your department. For instance, if you're in biology now, you've taken chemistry 101. If the chemistry 101 lecturer knows you and can speak to your ability, the person can write your recommendation letter for you. I always tell people, don't ask for recommendation letters from lecturers that hate you. You know people that do not like you. You know people that if they can bang your head, they'll bang your head. You know people that do not even want you to do good in life. Don't ask letters of recommendation from them. Make sure that whoever you're asking letters of recommendation from actually is invested in your success. Like, these are people you know that Dr. Lagwaja likes me. This person would want me to succeed in life. So these are the kind of people, because if a professor writes something bad for you, that this person you want to admit is a terrible person, is lazy, does not deserve to be in your department, no matter how great your profile is, nobody will admit you. So many people, sometimes they submit for so many years and they're not sure, like, what could have happened. You know, my profile is good, they're just rejecting me. Sometimes one of the recommenders is the one causing all the bad woes, because he just keeps writing that this person is not responsible. So which is why, make sure that whoever you're asking letters of recommendation from is actually somebody who is invested in your success. So the next is sciences. For people in science, policy, like, there's a lot of funding available. There are a variety of research interests. Even when you just talk about microbiology, somebody will be working on cancer. Another person will be working on diabetes. Another person will be working on tuberculosis. There are just so many research interests, because it's like, even in your if you're a microbiology student, you don't like all your courses equally. There will be courses that you like more. There will be courses that when the lecturer is coming, you're happy. There are courses that when the lecturer is coming, just be easy, that this one should just come and just leave. Even though it's still under your field, you're just drawn to some courses more because you're interested in them. So that's what we call research interest. So even though 5 people can be doing PhD in microbiology or masters in microbiology, but the research exactly they are working on can be different. And because it's like, OU has a chemistry department. OU does not have, for instance, let me say, a communication degree. That's okay, let's say PhD in communication. So almost every school would have a biology department, or a chemistry department, or a mathematics department. But there are some courses where not all schools have them. That's why it feels like people in sciences have a lot of opportunities, because we have like 3,000 universities you can apply to in the US, offering masters and PhD. If all of them are offering chemistry, that means like the opportunities you have is actually very, very good. And then postgraduate school career opportunity, like I said, I have people who graduate from my department, they're earning like more than $10,000 per month, not even like per year, per month. after their degree. So there are so many jobs, so many people graduate, they get multiple job offers. The opportunities, like jobs just calling you left, right, and center. You have to choose which one you're more comfortable working. So that's for people in sciences. For my engineering people, for people in tech, funding is very competitive. And like I said before, I talked about an exam called the GRE. I always recommend people in engineering to write this exam because this is what makes them competitive for funding. Because so many schools will be like, yes, they would admit you, but then when it comes to time to fund it, they will say, unfortunately, they do not have money available. And the reason is because they have prioritized people that have written the exam. They have prioritized people with strong profiles. So it's actually very, very competitive. So people in engineering and technology, I always encourage everyone to write the GRE if they can, but especially for people in engineering and technology programs, I always tell them funding is competitive, and funding is usually based on research assistantships, which means that it is professors usually that fund the students. So I explained before that industries can walk up to professors and say, can you solve this problem for me? The industry gives the professor money. The professor then uses that money to hire a student. So usually this is how funding in engineering or technology works. So that is why it is always recommended that you try to strengthen your profile as much as possible. There are also a lot of postgraduate school career opportunities. So many industries in the world. America has like one of the fastest growing economies. So many companies rising by the day. So you cannot finish an engineering degree and you're saying there is no job. In fact, there are multiple jobs and abundance of job even. So next is business administration. Some people will say, oh my God, like I studied accounting, nobody's going to take me. I studied this, nobody's going to. No, there are a lot of funding also in business administration. But like I explained before, because not all schools have these programs. Every school would, for instance, have a chemistry program or have a physics program, but not all schools would have a business program. So that makes the number of schools you can apply to low. And because for business administration now, rarely would you see a company saying, oh, we want somebody to solve our business problem, unlike in sciences and technology where it's very technical research. So usually business administration funding comes from maybe external scholarships or the department recruiting you to teach their student, like I've explained, the teaching assistantship. So it's not like if you're in accounting, finance, whatever business administration course, commerce, so many courses in business administration, you have access to the scholarships. The only thing is because not all schools have these programs, so the number of schools you can apply to is kind of narrow. Another thing is social sciences. Talk about psychology, sociology, so many opportunities. Funding is also available. There is variety of research opportunities. Somebody in psychology can be studying mental health in adolescents. Someone can be studying mental health in old people. Somebody can be studying chemical imbalance in the brain. There are so many opportunities, so many research opportunities for people in social sciences. And like I said in business administration too, the only reason why it feels like, oh my God, like so many schools are not giving funding is because number one, the number of schools you can apply to is lower. And because the number of schools is small, you need to have a strong profile to get in because so many people will be competing for very small number of schools. But there's, like I've said before I even started this, no matter what you study, there's a spot for you in the United States. There's a spot for you in Canada, no matter what you have studied. There's a way, even if what you have, and people always think if you study chemistry, you necessarily have to do a chemistry necessarily have to do a chemistry research. That's not how it works. If you study chemistry, you can decide, oh, I want to do something related to microbiology. I want to do something related to chemical engineering. So there's also a lot of flexibility. So the fact that you study psychology in OU does not mean you have to come here for psychology if you don't want to. There are so many courses that would give you the opportunity to kind of move across that, okay, even though you don't have the exact name of the course, you have the experience, so you're still qualified. Then heart. I have like one of the cases that I keep talking and keep referencing. One of my students, she studied English at Bowen University, and she's currently coming in August for a master's in communication. So, and that's another thing. Even if you study English, you study music, sports, dancing, art, no matter what you study, there are courses that you might not think about. For instance, somebody studying in English can just be looking for master's degree in English, but there are so many opportunities. As an English graduate, you can study English, you can study linguistics, you can study communication, you can study public relations, you can study HR, human resources. So there are just so many opportunities to move across. And one good thing about English is because there's so much value attached to writing now. There's a course in my school called Technical Communication where people learn how to write deep reports and all. Some of these people graduate and they are working for Tesla, working for Samsung, working for very, very big companies because they have the ability to write. All these big tech companies you hear about, no matter what they do in the lab, no matter what they do in like their site, they need somebody to translate that to what people would understand. They need somebody to write their manuals. So if you can write and you have very good writing skills, there are so many intersectional job opportunities. Unlike people who are in sciences who will stay in sciences and say, okay, I want to work in the science field. If you study English, there's hardly any company you cannot work. You can work in a hospital. You can work as somebody who writes manuals for cybersecurity people. Like there are just so many opportunities. So don't feel like because maybe you did not get the course you desired, or maybe because you don't like the course you have as much, that you cannot have this opportunity. There are so many opportunities available, no matter the course you study. Frequently asked questions. I'll give you the room to ask your questions through the chat box, but as these scholarships for people, there's something called STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And like I've said before, no matter what you study, even if you study dance, music, physical and health education, there are so many opportunities here to come for your master's, or even best, to come for your direct PhD. So this is not only for people in science, technology, engineering, and math. How long does the scholarship processing take? Depends on how hardworking you are. But there is what we call the application window. So now for people who want to be in the US in August 2023, they have started the application process. The application process will start formally in August 2022 and end December 2022. So it's not like you want to travel in 2023 and then you're starting the whole process in 2023. No, it's a year before, which is why if you don't make up your mind on time keeps going. If you don't get admitted this year, you have to wait for like another year to apply for the coming year. So it's like a year long like processing. So it takes time to do all of this processing. How competitive are graduate school applications? Like I've said, you're competing with people from all over the world. But there are so many schools, like there's hardly any school in the US you would not find in Nigeria. We are everywhere. We are the king of jackpot, like just want to leave the country. So even though it is competitive and you're competing with people from India, from China, from Italy, from Russia, and all of these countries, Nigerians have very good hedge because, come on, our education system is really good. Someone was asking me, like, do I think like my OAU education prepared me for a degree in the US? And then when I came in, I saw the courses they were teaching. Everything, there was nothing that I was not taught in OAU. Even though it's advanced level, even though it's PhD level, like even the crazy courses that nobody wants to teach, we had lecturers that taught us in chemistry department then. So if you are a product of OAU, if you're a product of a Nigerian university, you would hardly come to the US and feel that, oh my God, like this is a different kind of thing that I've never heard before. It is really rare. So don't feel like when you're a Nigeria product, what they teach you in school is not good. It's when you come here, you actually appreciate your lecturers more because they teach us more than what we need. Some of the things that they've taught us in bachelor, some people are just learning about it in first year of their PhD. For me, I've done this since part one. So there's that quality, especially from somebody who is graduating from OAU. It might feel like it's a very stressful school and everything is just hard. But when you graduate and you're taking masters or PhD, you understand that there is depth and there is value in what the lecturers are teaching you. And do I need to graduate with the first class or a very high CGPA? No, you don't have to. I've had people here with 2.2, someone with 2.9/5. I've had someone with 2.3/5. You do not have to have a first class or high CGPA because the application process is kind of cumulative. It's not like in OAU where they will say that the only thing they will use for your admission is just your JAMB and post-JAMB result and WAEC and that's it. No, they will ask you to write an essay. They'll ask you to take external exam. They ask you for your recommenders to submit letters of recommendation for you. Sometimes if your CGPA is low and you tell them something happened when you were in school, finances was hard, this was why you could not do well in school, but you're committed to doing well now, you're trying to better yourself, they actually listen to those stories. So those essays are not just write them for writing's sake. If something has happened in university that has caused your CGPA to be low, that still does not mean that you do not qualify. So you don't wait, oh my God, I don't have a first class. I also did not graduate with the first class. I graduated with 4.37. And like I said, I've had people with far less CGPAs that are here. So don't wait till, oh my God, I did not graduate with the first class. No, as long as you're ready to follow instructions, you're ready to do what is required for you, your profile to be strong, you can get in. So now, like I said, the name of my company is the Graduate School Hub. We give bespoke graduate school mentorship. So I work with my mentees one-on-one. I don't just dump people in a WhatsApp group and everybody's talking on that. You talk to me. So we work with you based on your profile. Like the kind of advice I would give somebody who graduated with 4.9 over 5 is different from somebody we are trying to build the person's from when the person graduated with 3.5 out of 5. So it is personalized. It is one-on-one. It's not like it's just like you have this whole group and so many people are talking at the time. Even though I mentor hundreds of students, I've set up a process where I can deal with every student one-on-one. You get the direct access to me. It's not like you're just like in this group and you don't know what's going on. Another thing is, what will you get from the Graduate School Mentorship Program? The reason why we set up this meeting was most importantly for you to have the knowledge you need. You don't have to necessarily register for the mentorship program for you to be in America, but I wanted everyone, as many people as possible, to have access to that information, to know that, okay, if I graduate from OAU, I can study this, I can do this, I can travel out of the country, I can study master's, I can even get a direct PhD without staying in Nigeria for my master's degree. So what will you get from the mentorship program? There's direct access to my inbox to talk to me directly. You get a personalized school list that works for you. Because like I said, the US has like 3,000 universities. If you're trying to choose the best 5 or the best 10 you want to choose, it's very confusing. And what the mistake people also make is their profile is not strong enough for the schools they're applying to. It's like somebody scoring 170 in JAM and the person is trying to get into OAU. Even if the person applies 1 million times, OAU will just keep tossing the person's stuff away because it's like you've not met the minimum requirements we need. So this is how it works. So it takes experience to be able to say that, okay, based on your profile, this is the course I would recommend for you. You also get unlimited documentation review. There are so many essays that are required for you to submit for your applications. Some people will ask you to write diversity essay, an essay that talks about how you as a person, your uniqueness, how would you be able to contribute to the program you're coming for? Then there's also the visa processing information. Sometimes people they do all the hard work, onto the visa stage, they don't prepare well for the visa interview, they get rejected. Even if Harvard gives you admission, the best university in the world gives you admission, if you cannot enter the country, you cannot study. So it is also very important to have the right information, how to answer questions, how not to answer questions, what to say, what to never say for your visa interview. So you also get that mentorship. There's also 100% effective templates for all required documents. No matter the documents you are asked to write, no matter the essay you're asked to write, you provide templates, then we review and we draft all your essays for you. And the mentorship is not yearly. We don't say that, okay, if you work with us this year and for some reason you're not able to get in, you have to pay for another year again. No, the mentorship continues for as long as you need. So if like one of my students now, she could not get in last year, this year, even though the admission cycle has not started, she already got a professor who is willing to fund her. So sometimes this thing takes time because there are so many factors that are responsible for you eventually getting in. So the fact that you do it once and it does not work does not mean you just let go and give up. No, you can actually keep pursuing your goals. And that's what I said first, commitment. There are people who do this for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. The reason why I set up the mentorship program is I wanted people to have access to the straightforward way to do this thing. You can do the try and error where you are browsing yourself, you're Googling and you're just doing things haphazardly, but you're going to spend more time, you're going to spend more money to finish. And then it's like you're just elongating the time it requires you to eventually finish your degree. And the next thing is, if you need personalized graduate school mentorship, some of you might be in your first year, second year, third year, final year, maybe I've graduated. It doesn't actually matter. But the most important thing I wanted you to know is to have the knowledge, to have the information. Once you have the knowledge and the information, whenever you're graduating, you know, okay, I had this person come and talk to us in OAU about this information. So it's very easier for you. So thank you so much for having me. I would ask Fola if he has anything to say to conclude, and afterwards, then we can go to the question and answer.
All right. Thank you so much, Ma. It's a well presentation, and we've learned a lot. And I believe that a lot have been inspired and a lot have been motivated. Just like I think this is being recorded, and so that it could be applicable for those that are currently not around and they could watch it hereafter. So this is very fantastic and fascinating because there are a lot of students that are actually hoping to have these opportunities, and our responsibility is to help and also get linked in the way we can do. So just like, although many of my questions have been answered because I think it was raised the time we met that those that are probably, I think opportunities like this, class opportunities like this for countries like America, UK, they are being marginalized or being a way that you come with an opportunity so that you can be useful for their country. It's not as if you just come to mess around. So, but some countries just like, okay, you start studying English now you're going to US or UK where the language actually originated. So what advantage are you going there to do? So that kind of a thing has been on people's mind, and I think it has been cleared. And also, so some courses that what I feel that some might not actually might probably feel marginalized and might not want to do. I think there are hope for them and there's hope for them. So they should just try to tap in. And whosoever asks questions, I think they can put it on the comment section, or if there's a way you can mute the mic for them.
Yeah. If you want to ask questions, please put your questions in the chat box and I will get to them so that I can answer as many questions as possible.
Exactly. So
then I left my link tree in the chat. Okay. So once you copy it, you have access to my LinkedIn, the website, Twitter, website of the company, everything. So you know the best way to contact me. So once you click the link, you have all the information you need. If anybody wants to email me, I would put my email in the chat also, so you can copy this and then you're free to ask questions. So John is asking, thanks for taking the time to educate us. My question is concerning the GRE and IELTS. Is it advisable to have written those tests maybe in final year or 300 or 400 for students in medical college? I would say that these tests are intense and the priority is for you to graduate with a good grade. So I wouldn't want you to start preparing for an exam and then your final year results are not so good because you're distracted. So it depends on you. You can start preparing, reading the materials, just getting familiar so that it would not be difficult when you graduate. But your priority should be studying and make sure that your CGPA is good, because that actually gives you like a lot of opportunities. A good CGPA would pave a good way for you. So yes, you can start preparing for the exams, get the materials, start learning, watching videos, knowing how to answer questions in your final year. But then make sure that you do not distract yourself from actually graduating with a good grade. Does anyone have any question? Okay. Shegun is saying, I'm an agricultural student, but a tech enthusiast. I've learned a lot of C++, Python. How easy will it be for me to jump into tech with a agric background? So what I always advise people is, almost everybody likes tech now because there are a lot of opportunities. And depending on your background, the skill set you bring into tech is very good. For instance, now you have an agriculture background. You're learning Python. So that means that you can actually work with an agricultural tech company to help them build websites, to help them build the apps. So the thing is, you can come for a course like, say, agricultural engineering, those courses sometimes, or you can work with a professor in the agric department, but the professor is working on software, it's working on development. So because of the way tech has kind of bridged things, you see people saying, I'm a chemistry professor, but then what they are doing is very related to technology. So there's an aspect of chemistry called computational chemistry. So almost in every field you are, even in economics, you have people where what they are doing at the moment is related to technology. So you can apply for a program, even though the program is agric, they might have like a research interest that relates to your technology background, and it gives you the opportunity to use your skills as somebody who is just learning tech. Inelua says, are we supposed to take all these exams and all before applying or during the process? Usually my mentees prepare for the exams while during the mentorship, because even after you have the exams, there are step-by-step processes for you to take before you actually submit your application. So I always recommend that people do this at the same time. If you want to prepare the exam for the exams and then start applying, you can do that as long as you're still within the application window, which is usually August to December for schools in the US. If you're still within the application window, you can decide, okay, I want to focus on the exams and then I want to start working on the mentorship. But usually, I always recommend people to do it concurrently. So immediately you've decided that you want to apply and you want to come to the US the following year, just start. If you're in the mentorship program, you get everything you need, walk through the step-by-step process. And during that time, you also get to practice and you also get to prepare for the exams you need. Someone said, what about opportunities for agri faculties, especially plant science? Like I said, plant science, soil science, crop science, whatever agricultural course you study, there are so many schools here. Agric extension even. There's so many students I have now that they are pursuing agri communication. So it's not like in Nigeria where some courses you would not even find a job that relates to it at all. You see people studying some agric and they're working in the bank. It's not like that here. Yeah, no matter what you study, there's an opportunity for you to use your skills. So do not feel bad or think, oh my God, I'm studying agric, it is not useful. It is very useful. Focus on your grades, have a very strong CGP, and then you can apply to so many programs related to agriculture. Someone said, which skills are required of the engineering student to learn before applying for graduate scholarship? It depends. The most important skills would be your final year project, whatever software, whatever thing you're doing your final year, make sure you understand it. Make sure you ask questions, make sure you write a very good thesis. It is not compulsory that you publish your undergraduate project. If you can, that is awesome, but it is not compulsory you publish this project. But at least when someone is asking you, some people you would know that they did not even go through their project well. They probably paid someone off or tried to just do the thing rush. Try to understand exactly what you are doing so that you'll be able to talk about it in your essays. Sometimes there are graduate school interviews where professors say, let's talk to you. Even after you've been given admission, we want to know you. Before you've been given admission, we want to know you and get to know you before you come to our school. So you are asked questions about your research. So it is very important that you can actually talk about your research. So the most important skills you can learn is actually know exactly what you're doing in the degree, know exactly what you're doing in the project. If you have enough room, like I've said before, there are so many online courses, online classes you can take, very beneficial classes that let you learn new skills. If you're in engineering, for instance, you can learn how to use modern softwares. You can enroll in an internship that teaches you modern software. So there are just so many opportunities. But the most important thing, like I said, is make sure you don't waste your time when you're writing your research project. That is the most important experience you have. Someone said, any challenges faced as a Muslim? I've been here for 4 years. I cannot say like there's any targeted challenges faced. There is, for instance, people in Nigeria, there are some companies that would not allow you to work because you have a hijab on and all of that. It's actually discriminatory in the US. And if there are companies like that, sometimes it is compulsory for them to have like a diverse field. So for instance, in Nigeria, you can have a company where everybody's just male, no woman, no Muslim. There are companies where they tell them that you need to have a diverse work field. So usually in companies, they have a quota for, you want to hire a number of these people from this religion, want to hire a number of people who are women. So do not think that because you're Muslim or because you have a hijab, you have disadvantages or anything. So as long as you do what you're required, nobody actually cares. Then is it compulsory for one to sit for IELTS before getting funding program? Well, it depends. I always recommend that people have everything ready before they submit the application. But if you write your exams even after, you can send your result as long as the decision has not been made. So you can still send your results even if you submit your application first and then write your exams later. You just have to make sure that you're within the application period and you've not started making admission decisions by then. And do you also know any platform suitable for a French graduate? There's so many people here in the US studying masters in French, masters in linguistics. There are so many opportunities, I promise, like so many opportunities. And that's one of the things we do in the mentorship program is we select the schools and programs for you, depending on what you want, depending on your profile. So you don't have to go through the headache of, oh my God, like I studied this, how am I going to cope? Someone said, is it possible to study a different course for my BSc Masters, like someone in tech doing education for Masters and PhD? There's a course called Educational Technology, where you're actually using your tech skills to maybe produce learning materials. Like I've talked about so many websites where you can go and learn free information. Some people designed those websites. Some people made it interactive. So they call them like, I think it's interactive design. I've forgotten what the name is, like learning specialists. These people know how people can learn stuff. They know, okay, if you teach somebody 3 times, this is how much they would absorb. And if you have tech skills, you can actually use your tech skills to develop applications, develop software. So you can switch to like an educational technology program if your BSc currently is in education. Someone said, I've once heard about West evaluation for an undergraduate degree. Could you please shed more light on that? West evaluation is like, usually it is required for people who have OND and HND. I know I didn't speak about like HND to PhD. HND, I have people who graduated HND and they are going to PhD directly. HND, no BSc, no masters, just PhD directly. And this is how it works. So West evaluation is like a credential evaluation where you have, it's just like whatever transcript you have, your OAU, for instance, sends your transcripts to, OAU sends your transcripts to West. It's called the World Education Service. Then they can say that, okay, you, for instance, for somebody who has an HND, they would evaluate what the person has and put it on the certificate that this HND that this person has is equivalent to an American degree. So usually if you study maybe chemistry or biology or technology and you have a bachelor's degree, West evaluation is not required. Some schools will say, no matter where you're studying from, if you've not studied in the US, you have to submit West evaluation for them to authenticate your result. Very few schools do that. I always tell my mentees, if a school is requiring you to submit West evaluation, you can exclude that school. We're talking about 3,000 schools. You will find one that would you'll find one that would not exclude, that would not require you to submit the West. But for people with HND, where in American, people might not know what an HND means. So it is important for them to kind of have like something that says, okay, even though this person has a 2-year OND, 2-year HND, it is actually equivalent to a BSc. Someone said, how much is the mentorship from your company? If you're interested in the mentorship program, please send me a message. Depending on when you'll be applying, I don't know, some of you are seeing your first year or second year, so I cannot kind of say, okay, this is how much you'll be paying then. But if you would be applying anytime soon, I left my link tree. You can reach out to me. I left my email, so I would also put that again. You can reach out to me. I'll evaluate your profile, tell you what you need to be ready, and then we can talk about the payment you need to make. Another question, someone says, this question is about official and unofficial transcript. I should explain that. So unofficial transcript is what you as the student has. It is unofficial because they've given it to you as a student. Official transcript, on the other hand, OAU itself, your school itself has to send the transcript to the school you're going. So it is like sealed and stamped, like very, how do I say, very high safety document. So it is sealed and stamped just to make sure that it is not adulterated. So it's still the same thing. It's still your transcript, it's still your grades. But the one you have, you submit for school, they'll say, okay, we assume we are not lying. And this is exactly what you have. But the one the school stamps is the one that says, yes, this person actually, what this person submitted to us is actually the same. And I always recommend people to apply to schools that require unofficial for your application. After you get in, all schools will ask you to ask your school, your university, to send the official. But don't start with schools where they would require you to send official now, because official transcript is expensive. You pay for each school you are sending for. So if you're applying to 10 schools now, that means you have to order official for each of the 10. No, don't do that. Look for schools that would accept unofficial, that it would allow you to upload whatever you have. It could be like a screenshot of your e-portal. It could be that you also have access to your transcripts from the university. Someone said, opportunities available for medical students, most especially those planning to go into surgery, and requirements needed. For people who study medicine, usually what they come here to study is public health or biomedical courses. If you want to study public health, make sure you're going for outreaches, actually showing your CV that, oh yes, you can, you know what public health means, you've contributed in your little way to the society. If you're interested in biomedical courses, for instance, as somebody who graduated, get a lab to do a research internship, because treating human beings and treating research is actually very different. So they want to make sure that you have the experience. So if you're interested in biomedical research, make sure you find a laboratory. These laboratories are used to students coming over to them for CWES, IT, whatever it is. So look for a laboratory that can give you the training you need so that you can talk about it when you're writing essays, that I am a medical student, even though I've been working with human beings for 5 years, 6 years. I actually have research experience and I can work in the biomedical field. If you're applying for, there are also people who study medicine and they're going into like bioinformatics, where you're talking about coding, Python, all this technology stuff. You can also do that if you gain the data skills. You can learn data science, data analytics. So just usually like just a balanced approach and a balanced degree that gives the opportunity to explore something new. So there's nothing like a master's in medicine or a PhD in medicine. Usually it's like a PhD in a field. It could be genetics, it could be cancer and all of that. But if you are studying, if you want to study public health, which is what most medical doctors come here to study, just make sure you get into outreaches, you get public health experience, volunteering experience is very valuable. But if you are going into biomedical sciences, make sure that you go for an internship, even if it is unpaid. Just go there, learn as much as you can. Someone said, does professional certificate like HICAN give one added advantage, and does GMAT result expire? Will HICAN give you advantage? Usually because some of these courses or certifications are kind of country-based, you might just say HICAN and be like, okay, yeah, this person has a certification in accounting, but it might not translate to what they understand for them. So, but if you do HICAN, it gives you more things to talk about in your essay, because it's a very valuable experience. It's an exam that is difficult, that you need to pass multiple steps. So those are the things that give you added advantage. If you do HICAN and you just put it in your CV, HICAN 2018, but when you're writing your essay, you've not talked about it, that, okay, I did this, I did that, this is what I learned during this HICAN experience and all of that. They would not know how worthy and how valuable it is. Because the GMAT result it expires in 5 years. The GRE and GMAT expire in 5 years. For TOEFL and IELTS, which are the English proficiency, they expire in 2 years. Will I make the slides available? Definitely. I'll send it to the student union president and you can have access to it. And that says, having skills like copywriting and others have an additional value. Of course, if you're doing copywriting, it teaches you the skills of writing is very valuable. I say that because I'm a writer, I've written for a very long time. Writing is very, very valuable. So if you've learned copywriting, it could be that you're using it to freelance. If you learn copywriting, it also teaches you how to explain yourself, how to write good essays. So these are very, very valuable skills that would give you additional value. As a biochemistry student, is there any opportunity in, say, psychology? Yes. There are some, like I said, like depending on the research, some of these science courses are so merged and you see a professor in psychology, but the bulk of the work is actually biochemistry. So there's so many research interests to explore. It does not have to be that you study biochemistry. What you have to do has to be biochemistry. Sometimes you can find a professor who is working on psychology and trying to detect a chemical in the brain that is making some people act the way they do. So you can do that. Let me see. Are there any undergraduate scholarship for technology and engineering? Definitely. But like I said, funding is very competitive. So the GRE I talked about, yes, please try to make sure that you study for the GRE exam so that you can have the edge for like when you're competing, because it's very competitive. Funding is limited. Usually they give admission, but when it comes to funding, they will prioritize people with the strongest application, which is normal. People with strongest applications will be prioritized. So it is very encouraged that you write the GRE, have a strong score, so that would help you build your profile. Does anybody have any other questions? Any addition? I'm going to post my link tree again. I intended using the link tree so that in whatever way you want to reach out to me, you can always reach out. The best way to reach out to me is on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I've also included my email. If you're more comfortable with email, that's also okay. So yeah, so once you click on the link tree, you'll find out to reach out like different medium, depending on the one you're most comfortable with. Then I'm going to leave my email again. You can also reach out to your president if you're not sure. Sometimes how easy it is to venture in pharmaceutical medicinal chemistry. Oh, so easy, so easy. So synthetic organic chemistry is my field. There are a lot of pharmaceutical chemistry. There are a lot of pharmaceutical chemistry and medicinal chemistry courses. And the US, pharmaceutical chemistry in the US is like, like it really sells a lot. There are so many companies that are willing to hire you. So chemistry as a course is very, very lucrative. I will even tell you a secret. Chemistry students are known like to have like the highest amount of funding available to them in the US. Many people, many schools are looking for chemistry students because there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies. America is like the drug hub. There are a lot of companies making novel drugs, drugs for diseases that nobody has even found before. Many of those research are done here. So if you're studying chemistry, studying biology, studying all of these courses, agric, crop science, plant science, art, communication, psychology, sociology, finance, commerce, there are so many opportunities for you. Does anybody have any more questions? I've talked about agric. Yes, there's opportunity for you. This meeting is recorded. Are we to write both GRE and English or just one? They serve different purposes. English exam, some schools will say if you are a Nigerian, you don't have to write. GRE is to strengthen your profile. So usually I recommend people to write both because they serve different purposes. One is for English proficiency. A school can require GRE and not require TOEFL or IELTS. A school can require IELTS and say you don't have to write GRE. So you have this mixed requirement. But if you just want to write one, I recommend writing the GRE because you can then you can filter schools that require the English and then just do for the GRE. But what I always tell people is sometimes the schools that will fund you are schools that will require both. So if you can afford it, I always encourage that you write both. Then is Duolingo acceptable? During COVID, people actually were allowed to submit Duolingo. So if you have Duolingo, there's an exam on Duolingo that you can also, there is a Duolingo exam that also qualifies for this scholarship. So you can do that. Someone says, let me see if there's any question. Will sessions like this be available in the future? Yes, if you registered, I'll add you to my email list to get information when sessions like this are available. Reaching out to professors, is it compulsory? Did you reach out to professors during your time? During my time, I did not reach out to any professor, but I always encourage my mentees to reach out to professors. We provide the templates, how to communicate with them, how to schedule meetings, interviewing mock meetings for the interview. So we teach all of that in the mentorship program. Can one use an online course or certificate to apply for scholarships? If you know how to talk about it well, if it's a course that has made you understand what the program you want to come for, it's actually very advantageous. But the most important asset you have is your CGPA and your research experience. So don't start running after online courses and you don't remember to do these things. So how and where to write GRE and IELTS? GRE and IELTS, they have centers in, I think, Lagos. I'm not sure if they have in Abuja, Lagos and Port Harcourt, I'm not sure. But when you are registering for the exam, you are able to see like the location or like wherever you want to write. Is there a scholarship for your mentorship program? It depends. Sometimes people get funded by someone else. Someone just says, I have somebody I would like to sponsor for the mentorship program, and then they are sponsored. Sometimes then we also have external grants. We give grants available for students. So this would be the last question I answer. Thank you so much for attending. I'll leave Folahon to give like the closing remarks, and then we can all leave and enjoy our weekend.
Thank you so much, Ma. It has been so well, and all well said and good. So we enjoyed it very well. So and what actually baffles some of us is that, okay, how do we actually venture into these opportunities? And they've actually given us a right channel. You have actually given us a hope. So you're an epitome of hope, and you're a symbol of hope. So we really appreciate you. We are grateful for this education. We are grateful for this enlightenment. And we hope forward to see you again when next we might probably call on you to give us another round of enlightenment. So thank you so much, and God bless.
Amen. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.